Everyone, our next session promises to be both insightful and hopefully also thought-provoking, because we are privileged to have a very distinguished speaker indeed here with us. His name is Louis Vervloet. He is a former director of the ESF Managing Authority in Flanders, and he will be sharing with us his expertise on what it would take to address the pressing societal challenges of our time. He did that here in Belgium, in Flanders. Louis.
Thank you very much, Wim, for this introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and on my behalf, welcome to Brussels, still the capital of this small country that we call Belgium, and even Flanders, a small piece of it. But good morning to you all, and thanks to the organizers to give me the opportunity to share my ideas on the topic that you're going to discuss here on the next 2 days. They asked me to give my ideas on what would it take to tackle today's societal changes. Well, it's a simple answer. It's social innovation and experimentation. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the challenges and things like that. Some of the challenges, some of the opportunities, and a number of other pitfalls, of course, because yes, in whatever we do, we will encounter pitfalls. And competences, working with competences has always been one of my, how do you call it, dadas. So, of course, I had to say something about it, as partnerships were one of my issues whenever I was involved in the social fund in Belgium. And I'll give you some of these experiences that we had in Flanders for a number of years, well, some 20, 25 to 30 years, where I started social innovation actually at the Commission. When I worked at the Commission, we launched the first cooperative programs, which was Euroform, and then later on, now when Horizon came about. Unfortunately, they stopped this kind of calls, transnational innovative calls in the Commission at the end of 2006. But I hear with a lot of pleasure that there is a new database coming up. I can only applaud these kind of things where you've got a database, especially a database of validated projects, validated products. And the validation, ladies and gentlemen, I'll come to that later on. Don't forget that you can even have a negative experience validated. And you can learn from both of them, but I'll come to that later on when I highlight a bit of the experiences that we have had in Flanders with the social fund, because, well, I'm out of the office for a bit more than 2 years now. So, yes, I'm on pension, but no, I'm not on retirement. That's another issue we can discuss later on, perhaps, but that's something else. Challenges. You can see them there, and there are a number of challenges. And for me, I listed there only 5, the biggest 5, because otherwise we could keep on talking about only challenges, and no, there are other things to say as well. And yes, lack of funding. Social innovation and experimentation can be a very expensive issue, and it requires funds that are not that easy to secure. And an innovation takes time. We'll come to that later on as well. So it takes a lot of funding, and it's not always easy to convince those that fund you to keep on funding until you have the result. Resistance to change is another of these issues, because, well, people are not just often, but most of the people are resistant to change, even when it is for the better. This can make it very difficult to implement new ideas and is a really major challenge for innovators themselves and experimenters as well. Try to change mentality. Try to change a culture. There's nothing harder than that. Scaling up, of course, that's where it's all about, and that's where the whole initiative will go about as well. Even if an idea works on a small scale, it can be difficult to scale it up to have a decent and larger impact. Secondly, and I refer to my former point, they often require changes of existing systems and structures, which, of course, will make people even more reluctant to the change needed. And measuring impacts. I've often heard in my, 40 years of working with the Social Fund, my idea is a good idea, my project is the best, my product is good. Probably for you, it's like my grandchildren are the most beautiful ones you can have. And I've got 4, but that's something else. It's very difficult to then go into reality where perhaps there are a number of things that lack or whatever. So share and try to send a self-evaluation. That's the start, yes. But it's even better to use accepting instruments to measure and external evaluations, even better there, so that you can get a real validation. Come to that, how we try to do that in Flanders later on. It can be very difficult to measure this impact, and it is really linked to the fact that they usually target very complex social problems with multiple causes. With all this, of course, replication is another issue. Even if an idea works in one context, it may not work in another context. This is, of course, again due to the fact that they often rely on specific factors that may not be present in the other settings. My advice in my time as managing authority in Flanders was, well, try to understand the solutions that worked in a certain sector or in a certain environment, and then try to translate this into your own culture, into your own sector. This, of course, will take some abstract thinking and a lot of creativity. Johan Cruijff said, elk probleem geeft een opportuniteit. Every problem has a positive side. It gives you an opportunity. And so despite the challenges, there are many opportunities. Again, I only list 5 so that we can go on that. The main ones, the main potentials, because an opportunity is a potential as well, the main potentials for social innovation and experimentation for me are, to begin with, solving complex social problems. And they become, the longer, the more complex. So, yes, it allows us to find new solutions to these social problems, and that are not easily to solve, these kind of problems. Social innovation has this potential. Again, it has, and as well, it has the opportunities to create lots of new jobs in different economical sectors. It can create jobs in all sectors, not just social sectors. It can create jobs in every profit, non-profit, whatever sector you want. Improving public policy, that's something that people often then say, Louis, why is that an opportunity? Well, I'm convinced that it can help identify to improve public policy. It can certainly improve the information for public policy and founding of these policy decisions so that they become a lot clearer and accepted by all. One of the first opportunities that social innovation and experimentation brings to us is as well building social capital. It can help it because it strengthens the communities by bringing people together around common goals. Nothing better, nothing more to strengthen life amongst people and to build social capital amongst a region, a neighborhood, or whatever. And yes, we can inspire others as well. Successful examples of social innovation and experimentation can and will inspire others to get involved in addressing these social challenges. And we need people from whatever sector, whatever region. every line of work has pitfalls. So there are several ones associated with social innovation and experimentation. And people need to be aware of them from the start of their work. Otherwise, they might destroy all the good work they've done and all the collaboration. The main ones for me, the main ones I can see is, of course, focusing upon the wrong problem. Something you say, oh yeah, of course. But it is very important to make sure that we're focusing our efforts on the right and carefully defined problems to solve, that we understand them all in the same way, so that, yes, we work on the same understood social problem. And if you don't involve the right stakeholders, you won't succeed either, I think. It is so important to have the relevant stakeholders in the process of developing and testing new ideas. And don't forget to involve them in your ongoing communication from the start and during the whole process. This will help you later on if you want to scale up or if you want to disseminate quite a lot. And if you don't measure impact, you've got a good project for yourself. But whether that then is for the rest, or whether you can really scale it up, whether you can really disseminate it, that's something else. That's why it's so very important to measure the impact of our innovations, so that we can learn from them, and that we can identify what works, but as well what doesn't work. Because we can learn from both of them, but to do that we have to measure. And be patient. And I know when patience was distributed, I wasn't home either. But social innovation and experimentation takes time to be successful. It is very important to be patient and persistent. And be prepared to fail. Because, well, failure, not all ideas work. And failure is, for me, a natural part of every innovation process. Failure, ladies and gentlemen, can learn us often more than a so-called success, if we really learn from it and go into depth why we failed. It's not a shame to fail if you've done your job. If you want to work into social innovation and social experimentation, you need competences. And that's not that easy to say. A number of them, I often think immediately on as a number of competences, and I already mentioned, of course, abstract thinking and creativity. Without them, you won't get very far, but problem-solving skills are of a major importance here as well. People at work need to be able to identify and to solve complex problems. So these skills will help you a lot. Collaboration skills. I'm quite convinced that one organization, one person, is not able to come up with a good social innovation. This takes so many points of view that you have to collaborate together, that you have to work together effectively with others across different sectors, disciplines, and backgrounds. And I already said it with communication. Well, communication skills are key as well. You need to be able to communicate the ideas and the solutions, as well as the failures, very effectively with a variety of stakeholders and audiences. Good example here was, for instance, involving, in Sweden, they involved political people from the Swedish parliament very early in the working groups that followed up the work of several innovations there, of innovation processes. This way you had an immediate line towards politics, and the impact was quick, a lot quicker than otherwise, because, well, an innovation takes, what, 5 years before it could really have a serious impact, even in a region, let alone at the European level. And resilience, ladies and gentlemen, you need to be able to persevere in the face of challenges, because if not, disappointment can easily take over and the whole process will get lost. This takes, of course, again, you to adaptability. You need to be able to adapt quickly and easily in response to changing circumstances. And if something changes constantly, then it's a social environment. So you will need to adapt and rethink your plan. But okay, planning is a living instrument. If you don't adapt it, it's too strict and it doesn't become an instrument anymore, but it rather becomes something that kills you. Yes, my dada, partnerships, certainly in social innovation. You can't do it on your own. You need a variety of organizations, of people, of experts, so that you can really work together and come to a good solution for the social problem you're tackling. So it's essential that we recognize the importance of local partnerships, because local partnerships are driving forward innovative solutions that address these complex issues. Local partnerships enable us to better understand the needs of the communities. They will help us to build trust, and without trust, no partnership. They will foster collaboration out of unknown corners. They will share quickly the knowledge and the resources, the expertise, their networks. Don't rebuild everything, use whatever exists, and that's what you can do in a partnership. Whether this is called a community of practice or not, it all starts with trust. And this is critical for creating sustainable solutions that meet the local problems. Transnational partnerships as well play a crucial role in advancing innovative solutions and that address these societal issues beyond the national borders. Transnational partnerships enable us to leverage diverse perspectives, expertise, and resources, and of course, again, networks from different countries and/or regions that can help us in developing more effective solutions. Therefore, I think it is essential that we foster both local and transnational partnerships in our work towards creating innovative solutions for these societal problems. Lots of nearly everything I said comes from my experience as the managing authority in Flanders for a number of years in the Social Fund. And well, we did a number of things there, and as I said, I started working on social innovation from within the Commission. What I learned there, I took with me to Flanders. And the first thing we saw was, of course, social problems have always existed, and new needs are constantly emerging and constantly born. So then your intervention logic, something you need to draw up a new program, told us immediately that it was absolutely necessary to be on top of the social problems and that we needed to look for innovative answers, either in Flanders or learn from the rest of Europe. Since then, I went back to Flanders in the end of '91. Every Flemish ESF program I was involved in had social innovation as a dedicated priority, which had at least 5% of the budget. The same for transnational cooperation, by the way, because certainly in the beginning that was linked to innovation as well. Sure, we took on some technical assistance because for us, managing authority was not just managing a program. Then you might be a good manager. But what did Bruckner say? Managers do the right thing. Managers do the things right, sorry. Leaders do the right thing. And you should lead in this way and facilitate as a managing authority, which takes, of course, money there as well. And On the money side, the financing side, we did not only bring the European contribution, but we looked for the matching funds in Flanders ourselves, and from 2000, 2002, something like that on, we provided the full matching fund. So we provided social innovators with a full budget for their project so that they could focus on their work, their expertise, and what we expected from them, not on a number of what I then call secondary issues. Sure, you need money, but looking for money constantly is not a priority for social innovators. In social innovation, we created two types of innovation. One through adaptation, which was, let's say, finding new answers to social problems or new needs, and the other one through experimentation. Try out theories and answers that do that in practice on a not very long, but on a small scale, just before you can really roll them out for the whole region or country. After our first experiences, well, we learned the lesson that we should not look for or select what we would call a ready-to-start project, because then you get the nice writers, those that think that they know the right words to put on paper. That doesn't mean you've got the right idea or the right project ahead of you. Good ideas need time to develop the scope of a project with a good working plan, with a good partnership, and indication of responsibilities of all partners. Because with a partnership comes responsibilities. It's an engagement, and an engagement, it doesn't always have to cost you money, but it will cost you. It was mandatory for us, for our Flemish final beneficiaries, to work in partnerships. For us, this was a guarantee for intersectoral or multidisciplinary approach. It was a selection criterion and could be a condition to be fulfilled before one could set off with the project or the process itself. Dissemination was another issue that had to be part of the project from the start on. Because if you start thinking on how can I disseminate, or how is again the same thing, how can I scale up, at the end of the project, that's too late. That was a lesson we learned there as well. By involving early old stakeholders, and a good stakeholder analysis is there worth its weight in gold, I would say, it gives you a good base for future work and the creation of a flexible and effective partnership, because partners don't need to be involved all from the start and during the whole period. Check at who has which kind of strengths and acknowledge the weaknesses amongst each other around the table, so that one's strength can overcome the weaknesses of another. That's what partnership is all about, working with and for each other towards a common goal. Of course, we wanted to create impact, which is one of the most difficult things in working with social innovations, and this is one of my experiences there. So creating impact either in the policy or at what you could call the field. But still it led us to setting up a system to validate projects and processes and or products. We learned the basis of the system from our Portuguese colleagues that managed the NOW project from 2000 to 2006. Anna Vaal managed the thing and learned us how she did it. We translated it, we adapted it into the Flemish reality, involving academical or other experts and peers. As a managing authority, we only facilitated. We did not validate. We had an external body validating projects, processes for us. And if positively validated, a project could get extra money for an extra year and a small upscaling. On the other hand, if not positive, the product or process could not be used in a mainstreaming ESF project. So this could not get any financing from ESF anymore. That's the consequence of validation. Furthermore, we created ambassadors. Call it best of the year projects, best of the year results that we saw that got extra money for dissemination purposes after the project and in a, let's say, rather free environment without all the administration that comes along with a social fund project. And sure, we simplified, but there are limits to that as well. In this programming period in Flanders, hubs are created to simulate innovation, and innovation itself is stimulated in mainstream action calls via the created local and thematical partnerships that are financed through the social fund. Time for me to conclude. Social innovation and social experimentation are critical for finding new solutions to complex social problems. They allow us to test new ideas before investing significant resources into them. However, there are many challenges associated with them, but every challenge as well gives you a potential. We have to learn to make an opportunity out of every problem, define this very well and make an extensive stakeholder analysis so that we do involve all of them as soon as possible, and each and every one of them needs to get their role and their responsibility in the whole process. We should never forget to imply politics in an early phase and inform them in a simple and clear way throughout this whole process. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to give you some other things to think about. With Mahler, I would say, and he said it about music, the best in music was not found in the notes. And if I link that with what William Faulkner once said, you cannot swim for new horizons until you have courage to leave sight of the shore. I wish you all a very fruitful 2 days discussion. Look forward to your conclusions by tomorrow, from today and tomorrow, but I even look more forward to your future work, which I will follow up, be sure of that. Thank you for your attention.